Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jean. You're welcome to a new video. Today we'll be showing us how to make, or rather how to draft a wrap dress. If you're new here, you're welcome. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and recommend the channel to your friends. So here I have the tools I'll be working with, and these are all of it on my screen. If you're familiar with this channel, you know that these tools are my go-to tools that I use in drafting. So right here I have on my paper the pattern paper for the top. So we're going to be drafting the top first before we go down to the skirt. Now for the top, I'm going to measure from the neckline to the waist. This is for the front. Now because it's going to be a wrap, I'm going to take in 5 inches inward. This is so that we can be able to mark out the wrap for the top of the dress. So for the extension that I'll be making for the front, I went ahead to take 5 inches from my center front line. So you can see all of the lines that I have on the border, at the side, and at the top, and at the lower part. So for the side, that is the center front line. At the top, I have the shoulder line, and down below I have my waistline. Okay, so right now I've taken in 5 inches from my center front line, and I'm going to mark it from the top to the bottom. So this is the 5 in extension that I'm going to be using for the wrap. Now that I have this line, so this new line that I've just marked is going to be the new center front line, and that is where you're going to be taking all of your measurements from. So if you've seen a video of how I drafted a wrap top, this is how it is. So I'm just going over it again. Now from the top, I'm going to take my bust measurement, and I'm going to mark that across the paper. Now for this pattern, I'm going to be including the underbust line. Now if you look at the picture clearly, you will see that the wrap actually stopped at the underbust. Okay, so that is why I included my underbust line. So now I've included my underbust line, and now I'm going to go ahead and take my armhole line. So from my shoulder line, I came down by 1 inch, and I marked the point where I have my armhole, and then I also went ahead to mark out my shoulder point as well, so that we can have an equal line running from the chest line up to the armhole extension. So right here I've marked out my chest line, and I've marked out the line where the armhole is going to be sitting. So at this point now, you can go ahead and add your neckline if you want. I'm going to be using a 3-inch standard for the neckline, and then I'm going to do my shoulder drop for the front. So for the neckline of the front, you can either decide to just go ahead and mark in your 3 inches if you want. Coming down to the underbust line, I extended the line towards the outside, because that is where the wrap is going to stop at. So from there, I also went ahead to mark out my neckline for the pattern. This is just for a guide. Now to the waistline, okay, I'm going to take my waist circumference divided by 4, and I'll be adding my 1 inch dart to it. Also at the chest line, I'm going to be taking my chest, that is my bust circumference, divided by 4. I'll be adding an extra 1/2 inch for ease, and that will be it for the chest line. Okay, that's for the bust line. Now I'm going to be connecting the two pieces together. Just if you know how we drafted our basic bodice pattern, this is just it. Okay, now coming down to my waistline, I'm going to be taking my dart now, opening up my dart leg. So you're going to be using your bust span for your dart. I've marked out my bust span on the waistline, and I've connected it up to touch my bust, that's my apex line. So down there on my bust line, on my waistline, I took out my 1 inch dart. All right, so you can take as much dart as you want. There is no rule on taking out that. So now I've marked out my dart. I went back to my armhole line. I took out the midpoint, and then I marked in 0.75 inch on that point. So this is for the front armhole. Now I'm going to be connecting the 3 points together from my chest line. That's the point where I have my bust line, up to the point where we have the shoulder drop. So right here we've created the shoulder slant. Now for us to do the wrap, now I'm just going to use my ruler, and we are going to be connecting with a straight line from the shoulder line down to touch the underbust line. So you can see the extension that I have on my underbust. That is where we will be connecting the line from the shoulder line to touch the underbust line. So right now, guys, the next thing we are going to do is to start cutting out the pattern. So I'm going to start by cutting out the underbust line. So you're going to be cutting all the way through from the underbust to the side, and you're going to be cutting out the part of the waist. Now the part where you just cut out for the waist is going to be reattached to the bodice as a band. All right, so just pay attention and look at the way that I'm cutting out my pattern. Now please note that this pattern does not have a sewing allowance to it yet, so I'm going to be adding that later on when I am done with the design that we are going for. Right, so here guys, this is it. I've cut out my pattern. This is what it looks like. You can see the waist part that is still separated from the underbust. We are going to be cutting that part out because we wouldn't be needing it. All right, so the part where we have the waist separated from the underbust is going to serve as a band. Okay, so we're going to be using that as a band to reattach to the main bodice. Now for the dart, you can either decide to cut out the dart or you can fold it in, but at this point I decided to cut out my dart, and then I went ahead to rejoin it with my sellotape. All right, so here guys, this is it for the front. So now we're going to be creating the drapes at the underbust, and to do this I went ahead to use my ruler to mark out a 1 inch line spacing on the pattern. Okay, so I used my ruler to mark out lines, to draw out lines on my pattern all across it, and this lines is going to be used to slash open the pattern so we can have enough room for the drapes at the underbust. All right, so right here I'm going ahead to mark out 1 inch on the lines, and after this I use my scissors to kind of slash open all of the lines. You can slash up to the end of the pattern, or you could also slash and leave like 0.25 inch before you slash open the whole pattern, or you can just go ahead and slash it open and still rejoin them back when you take it to your to the other paper. Okay, so right here, that's what I'm doing. I'm slashing open all the lines that I marked on my paper, and after that I'm going to take it to the brown paper. I'm going to take this slashed bodice to my brown paper, and then we are going to be opening it up. All right, so here it is guys. This is it on top of my paper, and now I'm going to be opening it up by 0.75 inch. All right, so after that you're going to be using your tape to ensure that you tape it down, it doesn't move around on your paper. Okay, all right, so just tape everything down so it doesn't move around. Now after slashing by 0.5, I'm going to go ahead and fold in the excess that I opened up, and then use my tracing wheel to just mark out the lines so that when we are done with this pleating, we have the lines running where they are supposed to run. Okay, so you can see what I have right now, and I use my tracing wheel to trace out all of the sides, and after that I went ahead to cut out the pattern. It's as simple as that. All right, so the reason why we have those folds is so that we can be able to cut the equal amount of fabric on the lower part. All right, so if you don't do this fold and if you just go ahead and cut it like that, you discover that when you do the drapes at the lower part, that's at that part where you are going to be draping, the fabric might not be equal and they might not come out well. So that is why we have all of those folds going on at the lower parts of this pattern. All right, so you can see the way I am cutting it. I'm cutting it based on how I folded it in and how I also use my tracing wheel to trace out that edge. So after cutting out, guys, this is what we have. This is what you have, and this is how you're going to be translating it on your fabric. I hope you get what I mean. Okay, this is how the drapes is going to look when you fold it on your fabric. So now that this is done, I'm going to be working on the back. The back is just as simple as that, and it's just very easy to do. Just going to be your basic back bodies. I hope you've seen a video on how I drafted this. This is quite simple. You don't need to do any form of dripping. Now for the back, I went ahead to add my underbust because we are going to be attaching a band to the back, okay, the same way we did for the front. And now I'm going to be, because I added my underbust line to the back, I'm going to also be cutting out my pattern at the underbust. All right, so this is just the major difference that we have with our basic pattern that I made previously. So the same way I cut out the front, the same way I'm going to be cutting out the back. I slashed the line open at the underbust line, and I went ahead to do the rest. I also did my zipper line as well, so that when we finally attach or make this dress, we don't have a bulge going on at the back of our zipper. Right, so this is it for the back. And for the part where we cut out for the waistline, I said we are going to be using that part as a band, so we're going to be attaching it as a band to the back and also to the front. So this is it for the back. I went ahead to fold in my back dart as opposed to cutting it out, so I just tried to fold it in, and then I cut out the excesses at the lower part, that's towards the waistline, and then I used my tape to just tape down that dart so that it doesn't move around. So this is what my back would look like. When I'm stitching this on my fabric, I'm going to be closing off that dart on my fabric for the back. So after you've closed out that dart, you're going to be having a band for the back and also a band for the front. So when you represent this on your fabric, you're going to be having two band for the back. You're going to be cutting two pieces for the band, and for the front panel of this pattern, you're going to be cutting the band on fold. All right, so this is it for the front and the back. Now we're going to move on to the lower parts of our dress. So now for the lower part of the skirt, we are going to be needing the basic skirt pattern. If you've not seen a video or you don't know how to draft a basic skirt pattern, I'll be leaving the link in the description box so you can go watch it. So the basic skirt pattern is what I'll be using. I have the front and the back. All right, so that is what we are going to be working on, and right now we are going to be doing our drapings on the front, so you will not be draping at the back. So we are going to be setting the back aside so we can mark out our lines on the front. So for the front skirt, I have gone ahead to open it up. I kind of folded it in, so I have a full skirt for the front right now, and then I opened it up. So what we are going to be doing now is to mark out that wrap we have in front of our skirt. So you can use your dart leg as a guide to mark out the curve for the front, or you can go in by 1 inch. So what I did here is on the outer part of my dart leg, I went out by 1 inch, and from that point I curved it all the way down to touch the hem of my skirt. So you can see the way I just did it, just simple. You don't need a calculation for this, you don't need to calculate anything for this. So I just curved from that point to touch the lower part of my skirt, and from there I'm just going to go ahead and also mark out lines on my skirt as well, so that we can slash open to be able to create the drapes we have on the waistline of the skirt. So what I'm doing, you can see that the lines are not running all the way to the lower part, that's to the hemline of my skirt. I'm just gradually drawing random lines on my skirt from the waist to the sides of the skirts. You don't really need a guide for this, just go ahead and draw as much as you want, and you can spread as much as you want like we did for the front. All right, so right now that I'm done drawing out all of my lines, I'm going to be cutting out. So from the main line that I marked, that's from the main curve of the skirt, I'm going to go ahead and cut that out. All right, so I'm just going to cut that out and then set the other side aside. So this part is the part where we are going to be draping on. So what we'll do now is to also go ahead and slash open all the lines that we marked on our skirt. So all of the curved lines that we marked on our skirt, it's what we are going to be slashing open. I'm going to be slashing it open to the end, because at this point you cannot drape it like this. You have to have a space for it to open up nicely. So right here, after slashing open all of my lines, I transferred the skirt pattern on a separate sheet of paper. Right now I am going to use my tape to tape it down on the paper. Okay, so just use your transparent tape to tape it down on the paper. And then I went ahead to also slash open. So I slashed open and then I spread it by 0.5 inch. All right, and then I went ahead to also pleat it close so that I can use my tracing wheel to trace off the lines, to trace off the edges of the waistline of my skirt. So you can see what I'm doing. Okay, I went ahead to trace off, as I pleat, I traced off the lines on the edge of my waistline, and here I am cutting it out. We are done transferring the lines with our tracing wheel. We are going to go ahead and cut out. So the essence of pleating, folding over the slashed line, is so that you will not have shortage at the top. It will not be uneven. Okay, so right now I'm going to go ahead and cut out the excesses at the sides of the skirt, so you can see what the skirt looks like after we are done cutting. So this is what it looks like. Now you're going to be cutting 2 pieces of this. If you want both sides of your skirt to have pleats, you can go ahead and cut 2 pieces of this on your fabric. But if you just want that the side that will be facing outside to have just the pleats, you can cut out 1 piece of this, and then the other side, which is going to be underneath, is not going to have a pleat. So I'm going to show you that later on. Okay, so this is what it looks like after we have cut out. This is the back, and here guys, this is it for this pattern. Okay, and for the sleeve, I'm going to be making it a puff sleeve. So right here I have a piece of paper for my sleeve. I'm going to be measuring from the top to the lower part. It's going to be a long sleeve. I'm going to be measuring from the top to the wrist of my sleeve. So from the top, you can see the line I have on my paper. That will serve as the top of my sleeve. So from that point, I'm going to be measuring 22 inch for the length of my sleeve. I said I'm going to be using a long sleeve for this garment. So here I've measured out 22 inches, and I've also measured out my cap height, which is 4 inches. So from the top of your pattern, you're going to place your tape and measure out your cap height. Mine is 4 inches. I've marked that across the paper, and then I used my ruler to connect the points together. So right here we have the top of the sleeve, and we also have the cap height of our sleeve. And also moving down to the lower part, I have my wrist as well. So on our cap height, you're going to be placing your armhole circumference. That's half of your armhole. I'm going to be placing 7.5 on my cap height, and then coming down to the wrist, I'm going to be placing 4 inches for the wrist. And then we are going to be connecting it with a slanted line. So just use your straight ruler to connect from your wrist up to touch your cap height. I hope you understand, more like your bicep line. All right, so here it is. I'll be connecting that down. If you've seen a video on how I drafted the sleeve pattern, it's the same thing. All right, so basically it's the same thing. We're just going to be drafting our sleeve. So now we've connected the wrist to our bicep line. Now I'm going to just randomly do the sleeve head. Okay, this is just easy. I like to use my free hand most times when I am doing this, but if you're not familiar with using your free hand, I have a video also on how to do all of the calculations and the proportions for the sleeve. If you want to see that, it's on my channel. I'll be leaving that on the link as well. So I just randomly freestyle the sleeve head. Now, because I said this sleeve is going to be a puff sleeve, I'm going to be adding extra 4 inches at the top of the sleeve. So from the top where I have my sleeve top, I went up by 4 inches, extra 4 inches, and then I connected it with a straight line. So this is so that we have a lot of volume going on at the top of the sleeve. So right now I'm going to redraw the sleeve head so that it will reflect the puff that we want on our sleeve. So you can see what I'm doing. Like again, I'm using my free hand also to connect to my bicep line. You can see the puff that I have going on at the top right there, and all of this is going to be pleated into our shoulder so that we can create the puff for the sleeve. I said I was going to show us how the under part of the skirt would look like. So that part where you cut out for the drape for the top part of the skirt, you know that remaining part, that curved part. Now that part, I'm going to take it and place it on a separate pattern of my skirt, same pattern, same design. I will place it on it, and what I will do is to just secure it. Just ensure that you align it properly, secure it down with your pins if you must. Then we are going to be tracing off the curve on our skirt pattern. So you will need to have another complete skirt pattern for you to do this. Now why I'm doing this is because I don't want the drapes to also be at the inner part of my wrap. So for the under wrap of the skirt, I don't want to drape the under. I just want the drape to be at the top. So that is why I am doing this. So now the part where I cut out for my drape, I placed it on a separate skirt pattern, which is the same skirt pattern, and then I used my ruler to just draw out the curve. So just draw out the line that you have, exactly what you have on that paper you placed on your skirt. So just go ahead and mark out the line. After marking it out, you can now take it off. Then you can now use your scissors to cut out the shape the way it is, so that way you have the underside of your skirt, the under wrap of your skirt, not pleated at the waist. Okay, so after doing this, I'm going to bring them side by side so you see what it looks like. Okay, so this is what they both look like. You can see the part where the skirt is going to be under, it doesn't have enough volume. It doesn't have as much volume as the part that is going to be on top of the dress. I hope you understand that. So I just place them side by side so you see what they both look like. So for my sleeve now, I have gone ahead to also cut out my sleeve as well. And here it is, guys. This is the cut out sleeve. You can see the volume I have at the top, which is going to be pleated as well. All right, guys, so here is the front panel on the back and the sleeve. The front band is going to be on fold and the back is going to be cut in two. The wrap for the front is also going to be cut in two. Alright guys, so this is where we're going to stop. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you are yet to, and if you want to see a sewing video on how to sew this, let me know in the comment section. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next one. Stay blessed. Bye.